From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, the ag industry celebrates a new trade deal.
Our farmers, ranchers, and growers will now be able to compete fairly in Japan against major competitors worldwide.
Our I-80 tour rolls into Illinois, where it's still a wait and see.
I mean, we've been late planting, but never as late as this year.
As a new concern emerges for producers working to bring in a crop.
We're going to see a big push of cold air. It will likely cause sub-freezing temperatures.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado and the all-new Silverado HD, the strongest, most advanced family of Silverados ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The end of the growing season may be coming shortly for many producers, whether they like it or not. A major snowstorm is zeroing in on the northern plains and the Rockies. The concern right now is for Montana, Wyoming, western Nebraska, and the Dakotas. AgDay meteorologist Cindy Clausen joins us now. And Cindy, temperatures in some areas will plunge 40+ degrees over the next few days as the storm pushes through.
Oh yeah, it's a powerful storm that's going to be moving through, again, dropping those temperatures, and we're also going to see the potential for a fair amount of snow in some spots. Now, this is just our model data this morning and into the afternoon, but I want you to watch, especially over towards Bismarck. We start the day potentially in the 40s, but as we head through the day, we're expecting those temperatures to fall into the 30s. Now, Rapid City kind of warms up, but then we start to see those temperatures falling into the afternoon. So by later in the day, we're down into the 30s, Billings at 25. These are afternoon temperatures, while the rest of the country much warmer, especially in the south central United States. Now, one other thing we're concerned about besides those falling temperatures that are going to be moving through the northern plains into the upper Midwest is the snow that we are expecting. This is what our model is showing. We've already seen a fair amount, especially over into Montana, into Idaho. That all moves on to the east, folks. So this is the next 24 hours, and look at that as we get into the Dakotas, and we are looking at our model showing potentially 8 inches, even maybe 12 inches in spots. This could be a big snow, an early season snow heading into the northern plains. And again, everything starts to push to the east. Now, I don't expect snow that much further to the east, but we are really going to see those temperatures plunge as we get into the weekend. And on top of the cold and the snow, we're going to see some fairly breezy conditions today as well. Our wind speed forecast shows the winds, especially along and ahead of that front, to be fairly strong today. So especially the western half of the country, looking at those windy conditions, it's going to be downright blustery where we have those cooler temperatures. Heading into tonight, they really don't die down all that much near that frontal system. And then as we head through our Thursday, we're going to see some pretty windy conditions there all the way through the central and northern plains. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. We'll have your national forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Clinton?
The snow on the way could mean problems for late planted corn. Meteorologist Brad Rippey of USDA says that late corn could get plastered with snow and high winds, and that could possibly cause stalks to break and lodging, which could mean difficulties getting it during harvest. And of course, the storm will add more wetness to the mix, so we could see additional flooding across the upper Midwest, taxing rivers that are already running very high, leading to lowland flooding and wet fields. Then, later this week, comes the cold weather on top of that.
We're going to see a big push of cold air. It will likely cause sub-freezing temperatures and an end to the growing season across roughly the northwestern half of the Corn Belt starting this weekend. That will effectively end any further potential for corn and soybeans to develop. And given the numbers that we see in terms of crop development, that's a big concern.
Fortunately, a lot of the soybeans that are immature are across the eastern Corn Belt. Rippey says those crops may survive a bit longer since we won't see freezing temperatures there just yet. And those concerns about killing freezes are not good news when it comes to the nation's corn and soybean crops, which continue to lag well behind the normal pace due to late planting. Only 15% of corn has been harvested, according to the latest crop progress report from USDA. The 5-year average, 27%. And particularly telling, only 58% of the crop is mature. Usually, it's 85% by now. That's record-setting late development. Soybeans not faring much better, only 14% harvested, usually at 34%, and 72% of that crop is dropping leaves compared to the 5-year average, which is 87%. It's also a record.
The I-80 Harvest Tour is brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. More weed control, less drift and volatility, maximum yield potential.
Continuing our I-80 tour this week, some Illinois farmers say the warmer fall they've been experiencing lately is helping them, but it all depends on how long it lasts. AgDay National reporter Betsy Gibbon talked with a farmer who should know. Betsy, he has more than 60 years of harvest experience.
Well, Clinton, most farmers in the Midwest will tell you they have never experienced a year like 2019. Well, we talked with an 83-year-old farmer who can actually tell us if he's farmed a year like this in his lifetime.
We do it about 7 miles an hour.
Alan W. Hoffman's reality in 2019 is attempting at working prevent plant acres during October before he's considering harvest.
I mean, we've been late planting, but never as late as this year. That you know, the biggest share of ground got planted after June 5th.
Words with meaning, expressing this year is unlike any of the past from an 83-year-old farmer.
This is a blade here for taking the trash away.
The farmer in Gardner, Illinois may be seasoned, but not out of touch.
I get a lot of notifications.
Keeping up with the kids and making sure he can farm a little longer.
And I got a reminder that I'm supposed to drink water every hour.
His experience shows he knows APH may not be achievable this year, especially on a crop where he has prevent plant corn acres.
Oh no, we won't get our APH problem.
And beans with leaves are still the norm for the area.
Now these are 3s and 2s.
But there's still a question to him what the corn can really produce.
When I tested it, it was going to yield about 262 bushels an acre. But when you look at it now, a lot of those end kernels have sloughed off. You know, and the one thing that we're not seeing is that the depth of the kernel isn't very deep.
A test he won't know until he's out in it.
The unknown is when they take those spot check yields is the wet spots out in the field, you know, that aren't going to produce. But there's a few guys that started last week on corn that was planted in April. They're getting real good yields.
As Alan's harvest is non-existent at the moment, his drive to stay on top of his profession is active. I do have to ask you, how are you feeling?
Well, I'm going to try to keep up with you. If you keep walking, I might walk a little slower, but...
A patience until both the crop and ground are fit, and an obedience to continue on for years to come.
You know, people ask me, you going to move to town? I says, no, the only way is when they carry me out.
Reporting in Gardner, Illinois, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
Japan and the U.S. have finalized a mini trade deal between the two countries. The deal lowers Japanese tariffs on U.S. ag to levels on par with the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Now, the deals on agriculture and digital trade cover about $55 billion worth of goods between the world's largest and third biggest economies. The Japanese ambassador to the U.S. and U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer signing the deal at the White House. Specifically, it will provide a staged reduction of Japanese tariffs for more than $2 billion worth of U.S. beef and pork. But Farm Journal Washington correspondent Jim Wiesmeyer says there is not as much market access for U.S. milk, and U.S. rice has nothing, whereas they had limited market access gains with TPP.
In the United States, these deals are a game changer for our farmers and our ranchers. We love our farmers and we love our ranchers. We've been working very hard on this, providing them with significantly enhanced access to a critical foreign market.
Happening tomorrow, China's chief trade envoy will be in Washington for talks aimed at ending the tariff war between the U.S. and China. Vice Premier Liu He will lead a delegation that will include China's Commerce Minister and Central Bank Governor and industry, technology, and agriculture regulators. White House Economic Advisor Larry Kudlow commenting outside the White House ahead of those talks.
The Chinese seem to be a little more cooperative recently. They've been in the market buying some agriculture. We like that. The statements coming out of Beijing have been a little more positive. Seems like the mood music has improved.
Kudlow also insisting there is no link between trade talks and the calls from President Trump for Beijing to investigate former Vice President Joe Biden. So if a big freeze does make its way south, what does that mean for markets? We ask a question coming up in analysis. And later, an island being eaten alive by a unique predator. That's ahead.
Hey y'all, Justin Moore here. Get ready to kick up some dust with the Rock Sword Dirt Roads and a Country Show sweepstakes. Enter now for a chance to win a customized off-road Roxor and 2 VIP tickets to one of my upcoming concerts. Visit roxoroffroad.com/Justin Moore.
Here now with Alan Brugler Marketing. Alan, as folks are in the field harvesting, the main question is, do I store this crop I'm taking out of the field, or do I sell it? These may be the best prices I see this year. I know you're getting that question a lot right now, right? What are you telling your clients?
Well, we're basically 40% priced already. So number one, deliver the commodities that you've already got sold. Keep some kind of price protection under the rest. If you're a hedger, put options or put spreads are a good alternative there. If you're a cash-only producer and you've got those other sales made, we're telling you to put the rest of it in the bin. We think that either the flat price will go up because there's some kind of late crop problem, or you'll see some basis improvement post-harvest, which would be normal. We are a little unusual in that the basis is stronger than usual for this time of year, but we still think there's some potential there.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Basis typically grows stronger as you head into like that January time frame, but this has not been a typical year.
No, absolutely not. You've got ethanol plants and feedlots that just have had to really bid aggressively to get corn away from the farmer because the farmer knows his new crop is still vulnerable. It's not in the bin. It's not even dried down to where he can combine it. You're getting heavy rains. Even the good standing corn along I-29 on my trip over here today was not, nobody was running. They just can't get in the field even if it is drier.
Do you think this is a more difficult year to make marketing decisions this harvest than in years past?
Yes, there's always difficulties.
Right.
The market throws things at you, but it's been one thing after another. You've had the wet spring, you had the trade war, which is interrupting or making it difficult to figure out what demand is, and then you've got these weather conditions this fall. It's definitely a challenging environment, and so you have to keep your eye on the targets. Number one, where's my break even? What do I need to have to beat that? Number two, what's the average price moves over a calendar year or a marketing year, which we call the techno-fundamental forecast. What can I reasonably expect to get with the supply and demand that I know about? And then put some triggers in there that tell you when it gets there that it's time to act instead of sit there staring at the screen.
Okay. Alan, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We need to take a quick break, and then we'll have much more right here on Ag Day.
To talk to Alan about his ag market professional services, call Brugler Marketing and Management at 402-697-3623 or visit his website, www.bruglermarketing.com. What do you call someone who does dozens of jobs? A farmer. At Pioneer, we're proud to work with generations of American farmers in the most complex and rewarding industry on earth. So from your friends at Pioneer, thank you, farmers.
Meteorologist Cindy Clausen taking another look at this winter storm as it works its way across the northern reaches of the country.
Oh yeah, early season storm and a pretty decent one as well.
Sure.
So not only are we concerned just about how miserable it's going to be in the Dakotas, the upper Midwest, even into the Central Plains and northern parts of the Corn Belt, but obviously this is going to have a big impact on crops there, especially those late planted ones as well. The main thing that's really going to keep our focus today is this front. It's a slow moving one and it's over here into the northern plains. You can see that snow backing up into some of the northern high plains and all the way back into parts of the southwest as well. That's going to be the big precipitation maker over the next couple of days. Again, slow moving as we get into tonight. We see that snow moving into North Dakota, a bit into South Dakota there as well. Other parts of the country, you might see a touch of rain along the far eastern coast there on the backside of this low pressure system. We've got some rain down in Florida, and we've got a stationary front that's trailing back into parts of the southern plains. You might see a little bit of rain there, even trailing up into the nation's midsection, but by and large, this is where our focus is going to be over the next couple of days. Into the overnight hours we go. We start moving into some warmer air, so we mix some rain into that as well, but on the backside it is frozen precipitation, and it could be a fair amount of it for parts of North Dakota, South Dakota, even into Wyoming, maybe even parts of northern Nebraska into northern Colorado as well. Heading through the day on Thursday, everything pushes off to the east, and then we really start to see this low kind of strengthening. We start to pick up a little bit more moisture from the Gulf as well as that continues to push to the east. So the colder air on the backside will bring some wintry weather, and then we have some showers and thunderstorms, and this will continue to strengthen a bit as it pushes even into the central and into the eastern Corn Belt. All right, so the precipitation estimate over the past 24 hours really been with this front off into the northwestern United States, a little bit into the southeast, and then you add on the next 24 hour, and boy, do we see that moisture picking up then as we get into the Dakotas and then back down into the central plains as well and into the southern plains. And Florida getting a fair amount of some rain there as well with that front kind of draped across your area. Temperature-wise, boy, this afternoon, look at that, only around 40 in Bismarck. That's with those falling temperatures through the day. But look at the difference. We're still dealing with 90s there, 26 in Billings. That is a crazy temperature spread. Into the overnight hours we go, and we'll see those low temperatures in the 20s and 30s. So this is obviously a very big frost potential there, freeze potential in some spots there, 50s and 60s, and even some 40s in the northeast. And then as we get into tomorrow, we're going to be seeing the colder air continuing to spread east. This is the afternoon temperature in Bismarck, only 30 degrees. Jet stream is going to show that trough moving across the country, cut off low potential there as we get into the latter part of the week and into the weekend, traversing across the Great Lakes. Yeah, that's going to be some cold weather there. We'll start to see a ridge building in, though, as we get into the early part of next week. That's your national forecast. Now let's check on the weather where you live. Stanfield, Arizona, sunny and hot for you today with a high of 95 degrees. Richardson, North Dakota, rain changing to snow, falling temperatures and breezy on top of that with a high of 40. Partly cloudy in Waverly, Ohio with a high of 73.
Coming up, one senator wants answers when it comes to prices paid to produce growers. Plus one union fighting back against proposed changes to pork processing next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
A U.S. senator is calling for an investigation into the price differences for produce growers. Democratic Senator Kristen Gillibrand of New York made the request to USDA. She wants to know why the prices that produce growers receive have stayed stagnant or declined, while prices for fresh produce from wholesalers and on retail shelves have increased. Now, Gillibrand says while the last 3 decades have seen changes in farming technologies, market structure, and consumer behavior, prices for farmers haven't changed much. She's asking the USDA to undertake a comprehensive review of the produce industry at the farm, middle market, and retail levels. The union representing workers at pork processing plants is suing the government. The group is challenging new rules finalized in September that allow companies to set line speeds and turn more food safety tasks over to company employees. Now, the United Food and Commercial Workers International Union and local unions in Minnesota, Iowa, and Kansas have joined with a nonprofit consumer advocacy group to file the suit. It alleges the new rules announced by USDA violate the Administrative Procedure Act because they are not backed by reasoned decision-making and should be set aside. A visit to one Greek island is anything but a trip to paradise. See what's taking over the island and what farmers who live there are doing about it next.
Hey y'all, Justin Moore here. Get ready to kick up some dust with the Roxor Dirt Roads and a Country Show sweepstakes. Enter now for a chance to win a customized off-road Roxor and 2 VIP tickets to one of my upcoming concerts. Visit roxoroffroad.com/Justin Moore.
People who live on a remote Greek island have come together to try to stop something from literally eating away their land. It's not bugs or overbuilding, but goats. Huge numbers of domesticated goats call the island of Samothraki home. The goats outnumber people 12-1 because they have nibbled away much of the countryside. The goat numbers have dropped to below 50,000 from a high of 75,000. Now, most goats are malnourished and too scrawny to be used commercially for meat. Animal feed is too expensive to maintain a sustainable business, and much of the soil is too depleted for trees to grow back. Island officials had hoped to turn the area into an internationally recognized nature preserve. The area is about 3 times the size of Manhattan, but first they have to do something about the incredibly hungry goats. Now, locals are planning to fight back. They're working with overseas researchers on different pilot projects to tackle the problem. They've also created a herd management website app for farmers. Local livestock farmers have also joined a newly created cooperative to try to pool resources, and they're hoping to negotiate higher prices for milk and export the island's famous goat meat on better terms. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. It's been part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.